Hello and welcome to the evening session of this seminar today. If you're just joining, this is the third international parenting seminar put together by Antoscience Consultancy. And this year's seminar is in partnership with Lindaspace Media. So I would give like 2 more minutes to see if people will get on the call. Of course, you can stream live on YouTube and as well as on Parents Teachers Network on Facebook. On YouTube, you can stream on Lindaspace Media, and on Parents Teachers Network, a Facebook group. So I can see people are joining. So I think we can as well start because we're already 4 minutes into the time. So before I start, I would like to introduce the convener of this seminar today. And that person is no other person than Ijeoma Omukeme. Ijeoma, please, do you have, would like to know what motivated you to start this seminar? What was that thing? What was that problem you were trying to solve? What was it that you saw and felt like, okay, I need to put together a seminar to get people informed and aware of this problem? So what is it for you, Ijeoma, please? We can hear you. I don't know if you're trying to talk or you're talking already, but we can't seem to hear you. But you're not muted. Maybe you, yeah. Yes. So while she's trying to get her act together, I would like to introduce, to tell us that, okay, we had this seminar go on in the morning, and we had 2 speakers talk to us. If you haven't seen the video, I enjoin you to go back and watch the video. You can watch it, as, of course, from Parents Teachers Network, a Facebook group. We had a lot to chew. It was very insightful, it was informative, and it was really, really enlightening. My name is Linda Umezurike. I'm the moderator for today. Yeah, so let me know if Ijeoma is available right now, because I really enjoy it when I have things follow the order is supposed to follow. Like, it makes sense, okay, for us to understand why we are gathered here today.
Okay, sorry about the mix-up. I guess it was network issue. Hey, Diha, it's a pleasure. Ifechukwu, thank you. Thank you for being right here, right on time. Okay, this is me.
When are you going to thank me?
Oh my goodness, my amazing moderator, my partner.
Just joking. Continue, please.
All right, okay. My consultancy, Antoscience Consultancy. This is what we began exactly 2019. Yes, that's the year. Okay. We had the first parenting seminar in 2019, and we had the team activating effective parenting for the Nigerian child. We saw the outcome. It was quite helpful. Okay, you might be wondering what made me to convey such a huge number of people. Now, as a teacher, I'm still in the classroom. I'm still teaching. Okay, I got to find out that our kids out there, is either the parents are doing the job well, or the teachers are the ones doing it well. Now, oftentimes you find out that there are loopholes, and because there is no synergy, because there is a lack of communication between the two, these kids tend to suffer it. So you agree with me, this is not the only parenting seminar going on. But from my end, we had to start from somewhere, such that parents would learn to start to communicate with their child's teachers. Oftentimes, when I make a move to meet with the parents of my pupil, to some of them, it's quite strange. Like, Why does she want to see us? Oftentimes, I invite them. I would like to meet with you. I don't buy the idea of discussing these issues over the phone, conversations. No, come around. This is your child. Value the child. Okay, it is this gap that made us to start this movement. So after the first year, we called it a group. We inaugurated it and we called it Parents Teachers Network. And together we have been building that synergy to bring parents and teachers together. Okay, last year, despite the COVID-19 outbreak, we were able to have it again. This time around, it was 7 days. Yes, and we still have speakers all over the country. And we talk on emerging technologies relevant to effective parenting. This time around, parents, you are now bringing up 21st century digital kids. So it shouldn't be like the way our forefathers did it. This time around, modernization have introduced us to lots of technologies. So we taught them how they can employ these technologies to bring up their children, you know. So this time around, we are looking at child protection, a rewarding responsibility. You can imagine a parent taking his or her child to get expensive materials, this and that. Now, when you call them for this type of discussion, it's as if it's not relevant. But you agree with me that child protection is all encompassing. We have different ways you can protect your child. And just like Ifechukwu will soon tell us, all hands ought to be on deck. You don't leave it for the parents alone, and you don't leave it for the teachers alone. All right, so this is what I have to say for now. I seize this opportunity on behalf of Antoscience Consultancy to welcome Nihia and to welcome Ifechukwu for deeming it fit to answer this clarion call. We are not paying you, but you have really shown that there is dignity in your service, and I commend you highly for that. Thank you.
Okay, before I let you go, please, before you go, we would like to know who is Antoscience Consultancy, because a lot of people are like looking at you, hear you talk. So what does Antoscience Consultancy do?
All right, okay. I thought I mentioned it anyway, but it's good we touch it again. Like I said, I am an academic consultant. So I gave it the name Antoscience Consultancy. My name is Antonia. So it is from Antonia that the very name was coined. And as you know, I'm a science educator. All right. So I brought it together. It's my concept anyway. So that's what gave us the name Antoscience Consultancy. And what we do is one of the service that we render. Aside teacher training, rebranding of schools and all that. We also organize free webinars like this to also give back to the community. All right. Thank you for the question.
Thank you so much, Ijoma. So please, I have seen hands being raised. There is a way we're going to do this thing. That's why I'm here. So please, there will be time to accommodate whatever you want to say. So just hold on. So let's get things going. There'll be time for everybody to talk. Trust me. So I want to introduce Lindaspace Media to you also. This year's International Parenting Seminar is in partnership with Lindaspace Media, and Lindaspace Media is basically a brand that focuses on video production, content curation for TV, and any other digital platform, any other digital TV. It mustn't be terrestrial TV. So we are also into social media management for individuals and corporate organizations. And in case you want to run a virtual seminar such as this, we'll help you put things into perspective as regards to publicity and marketing. And the face behind Lindaspace Media is, of course, me, Linda, who is today your moderator, okay? So without further ado, let's meet our first speaker, okay? So let's meet our first speaker.
Hi, Linda. Thank you so much for...
I can introduce you properly. I can't introduce you like...
All right.
Ready to give us a deep insight on the general theme, child protection and rewarding responsibility, but more specifically on the topic, children, and COVID-19 is Neha Misra. She is the CEO and co-founder of the FinLead project, an IIT Delhi incubated financial education platform. She is an IIT Madras alumnus with a decade of experience in technology and finance. She has worked for corporates and startups in India and USA, including working at the long-term stock exchange Wall Street, New York. Neha is a CEBI empaneled securities markets trainer and an NISM certified currency derivatives analyst. She is a global speaker and has spoken at multiple international platforms like the Women Tech Conference, Code for America, Think India, Dell Women's Entrepreneur Summit, amongst others. She is an advocate for financial literacy in India. Neha is a mentor for the IIT Madras Alumni Association, Google Internet Sati Accelerator, and the Oxford University Women in Business. Ladies and gentlemen, Neha Misra.
Do we comments from here, Linda?
No,
I
yeah. She should start.
All right, Nia.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Linda. That was such a wonderful introduction. And I'm so humbled and touched to be here to speak before all of you. First of all, let me thank Ijeoma for the opportunity for reaching out to me to discuss this very important topic, which is child protection. And of course, the theme around which I'm going to speak is related to COVID, which we are all facing right now. The pandemic is raging again here in India, and things haven't really been the easiest for all of us mothers, parents, teachers, because we had to adapt really, we had to really change our perception in the last 1 year. So before we delve into the theme, I'm really grateful to be here, Linda. That was an amazing introduction. I absolutely love the way you brought the concept to life in this afternoon session. I did see the morning session as well. So kudos to you for doing your job so well, and really proud of the work that you are doing. To get started with, around last year is when I launched the Finlit project. And we were testing out different parameters around financial literacy. So my work primarily is in the area of finance and, why finance matters. That's when I met, some youngsters from Owerri, Owerri, Imo State, and had an opportunity to speak to them about financial literacy for startups. Incidentally, Ijeoma happened to know, Amadikwa, with whom I had worked on the Financial Literacy for Startups program, and she reached out, and that relationship has stayed since then. So this year, when she reached out and said that, hey Neha, we're doing this workshop and seminar on parenting. Would you like to be a part of the panel? I was absolutely humbled and gratified to Ijeoma to consider me for the opportunity. So Linda said a lot of things about me professionally, the work that I do within India, the background that I have in India and the US. Some of the work that I've done is focused on the UK. So we've tried to do as much globally as possible. But at the core of it, I am also a mother. I have a 7-year-old son of my own. So I absolutely understand the challenges that we face in current times because of the pandemic, and the adaptation that we as parents and teachers have to bring about in their lives. So just before I started the call today, I actually asked my son, because kids are very pure, they don't hide things. They'll tell you things to the face of it. And I said that I'm going to talk about child protection and COVID. So I asked my son, I said, I'm going to talk about child protection and COVID. And could you tell me what is the number one thing you don't like about COVID? And he instantly, like promptly, there was not even a second, and he said,
Hello, Linda. Hello, Linda.
Yes, Linda, I apologize for that. I went on rambling. I don't know how much of it you guys actually heard. But if you can hear me right now, just show me. Yes. Great. So I'll start again. So what I was talking about is that kids, of all ages, have had the worst effects of the pandemic on their lives, because it's not really the same as going out and playing with your kids, playing in the mud, enjoying childhood, as we call it, just being worry free. And we as parents are so paranoid that the third wave might impact kids that we've just every time, please don't go out, wear a mask when you're going out, look at life in a different way. And that's not easy. It's not easy for us as adults, and it's even more challenging for children out there. So I really appreciate the work that Ijeoma is doing with Antoscience Consultancy, talking to parents, asking them to come over, because in person things are very different. Like over the phone, you don't really know the reaction that people will give you, but in person, definitely reactions do come through. So kudos to you, Ijeoma, for organizing the third seminar, and really happy to be here, speak before all of you. So one of the reasons I started my career in technology. So I had a very usual childhood here in India, mostly around playing, being around friends. And our parents would worry all the time, like, why were you staying out late? What happened? Where were you after school? And those kind of questions do come up. But once you become a parent yourself, perceptions change, the way you look at things are very different. And that is when you realize that, oh, your parents were right all along. So, it's absolutely a grateful experience being a parent, because children teach you things that no other skill in or no other experience in the world will teach you. Children teach you humility. Children teach you purity. They're so pure at heart, and that is what the beauty of childhood is. So kudos to you, Ijeoma, for the work that you do around children and child protection, because again there is also a dark side to it. Why are we here talking about child protection? The number one reason is that at the other side of it, there is also child abuse. There are cases wherein kids are not treated at the same level, and I've realized this in my personal journey, that sometimes we think that kids don't really understand what is going on around them. Say supposing something happens, something bad happens, and you want to hide those things from children. For instance, I'll give you an example. A few years ago, when my husband met with an accident, we were a bit worried, and we said, my son was about 2 years old at the time, and we said, oh, let's not tell him, he wouldn't really understand. But you wouldn't believe that, the minute we took my husband to the hospital and things were like we were running all about, my son came to me very, very, and he said, where's my father? And that's the moment wherein we decided that, we have to take kids as they are, we have to talk to them. And we have to get down to their level and speak in a language that they understand. As a parent, sometimes I also, make the mistakes wherein as a parent, I also make some of the mistakes I make are often around, when we are busy and we just want to get things done. And we just come and say, hey, you didn't finish your homework. And why didn't you finish your homework? Your teacher's going to get so angry. And the spontaneous reaction that you get from the other side is of resilience. Because if you try to be aggressive, that's what the kid is going to learn. So it's important to get down to their level, talk in a language that they understand, talk just try to put yourself in their shoes and see from their perspective what it means for them. So, we've all been so paranoid. I come from India. I forgot to, highlight that aspect. I'm based out of New Delhi. I'm also a military spouse, so we travel the length and the breadth of the country. What we often realize is that, with every transfer, with every movement that we have to make, we are in that rut, we are going in a cycle. But for kids, every new journey is a new paradigm shift in itself. So you have to sit down, you have to explain to them things in a very simple language. With the pandemic, I remember last year when the pandemic happened, and we were initially, all of us were paranoid and just told our children to start wearing masks. You wouldn't believe how unusual it is. And initially, it was so difficult for me to convince my son that you have to wear this and you cannot go to the park without a mask. You About a month ago, unfortunately, I was diagnosed with COVID-19 myself, and hence can relate to that situation really closely. And it was about 4 days into quarantine. Now, on my fourth day, my son was in the other room, and he just started crying. And I said that, why are you crying? And he said that I'm worried. I'm really worried, Mama, and I just want to come and give you a cuddle. I just want to come and hug you. And it is the little things in life that kids are missing these days. And it is such a challenge to get down to that level. Unfortunately, he came and hugged me and he got COVID too. And it wasn't the easiest because, to see children suffering because of COVID is a huge setback, As adults, we are able to tell that, these are the problems that we are facing. Kids don't necessarily have the knack or the understanding to explain that what exactly is wrong. But it is our duty as parents to get down to their level, try to speak in a language that they can understand. It could be through friends. It could be saying, hey, do you miss your friend? Would you like to call them? Another aspect that kids are suffering a lot in terms of the pandemic and COVID is the concept of birthday parties. So, as a child, birthday parties were something that we would really look forward to going, meeting our friends. And last year, when it was my son's birthday, we decided to do things virtual. We did a Zoom birthday party. We called all his friends over and we cut the cake before the screen, and he just started eating. And my mother was like, look at him. He's just going on eating. And I said, just try to understand his mindset. What will he do? He doesn't have friends to share that piece of cake with. He doesn't have friends to put that cake on their face and run behind them. So kids have absolutely been, I think, the hardest hit during these times. And as psychologically demanding it is for parents, it is equally psychologically demanding for children. So you have to sit down. I mentioned the example of when my husband wasn't well. After that incident, we decided to talk to my son and tell them about everything that was right and everything that was wrong. Every time there's something wrong in the house, kids understand. You cannot think of them as dummies who don't really understand things and they're just there, to play around. So you talk to them and you wouldn't believe the response they give. The response they give is so reaffirming, and for you to feel that, things are going to get better. So everything will be all right, but, you have to get down to their level, understand from their perspective. A huge paradigm shift. I'm a mother of a boy. So you wouldn't believe a few years ago, my son said, oh, someone at school said that boys are supposed to wear blue and girls are supposed to wear pink. And that's when, someone has sent him a t-shirt which was light pink in color. And I said, why do you think like that? Why do you think like that? Why do you sort of attach stereotypes to things which are, and he said, my friend said like that. And I bought him a really nice book which said, girls like blue and boys like pink. And we sat down and we said that it doesn't matter in terms of what background you come from, what your preferences are. As a boy, if you like to play with the doll, that's absolutely okay. That's who you are as a person. You can't really put them in a stereotype and say, hey, no, you're only supposed to play with guns and toys like cars. And as a parent of a girl, you can't necessarily say that you have to follow the conventional path. We've got all ladies here today in this platform and doing such amazing work. So there should be no stereotypes attached. Um, as as a mother, again, coming from an Indian cultural background, traditionally men don't really do much of the work. Most of the work, like housework, is what women are supposed to do because that's how we've grown as individuals, human beings. But last 1.5 year, when the pandemic happened, I asked my son, every time he would see me sweeping the floor or cleaning the utensils, and I said, would you like to help me? And he said, of course, Mama, I'd love to help you. And that's when, it becomes a shared responsibility. So you were sort of, we would talk when we are doing things together, because that is what you have to embed in the children of tomorrow. Another aspect that I'd like to quickly touch upon, because it focuses a lot on the work that I do on financial literacy. Some of the work that we are piloting is around financial literacy for kids. How will you explain to them the concept of saving? How will you explain to them the concept of donating? So I did a podcast with an individual who's written the book called The Four Money Bears. There's spending bear, there's investing bear, there's donating bear, and there's investment bear. Insurance bear, sorry. So it talks beautifully. If you give a child 100 Niara note, one note, what will they do? The instant reaction that kids have is to go and buy something, buy a toy, buy a chocolate, buy something, immediately with it. But when you tell them that there are other ways to spend that same 100 money, the first way is to save it. Put some money in your piggy bank. It's really important that you start embracing that concept between the age of 7 and 11. According to a report by OECD, child behavior sort of develops by the age of 7. Between 7 and 10 are the crucial years. So if you educate them at that stage that no, there are different ways to deal with money, there's a right way, there's a wrong way, and you talk in a language that they can understand, I don't see a future where we can't really have financially literate adults, financially stable adults who are focused on understanding how money works. So that is the core of my topic. And thank you so much, Ijeoma, for having me once again. It was an absolute pleasure to speak before all of you. I'm delighted to be joined by Fechu Kuku, and she's the school safety expert. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from her about how the situations have changed in Nigeria in the last 1 year in terms of the pandemic, and how will we look at school security from that perspective. Once again, thank you so much for having me, and I'm happy to take any questions if you have.
Thank you so much, Niha. It's been an expository seminar. I mean, hearing you talk about children and the way they are settling, trying to absorb the new normal is really, really intriguing. I don't know, do we have questions? Does anybody have a question for her? Please, if you have a question, wherever you're streaming, if you're streaming on Facebook, if you're streaming on YouTube, or you're live with us here on Zoom, please do well to drop it in the chat if you're on any other platform. But if you're here on Zoom, please raise your hand and I will attend to you as soon as I see your hand raised. Okay, so when we were talking, I was like, okay, now children, we are trying so much to show empathy to our children, trying to, tell them that these things are normal. So is there any technique we can use to tell them, okay, by God's grace, if we get out of COVID, that okay, we have to come back to the old ways? It's going to be confusing for these children. Like, wouldn't they be like, what exactly is going on?
That's where talking is really important. That's a great question, Linda. I hope we all come out of the pandemic by next year. Hopefully all of us get vaccinated and we put this behind us. But that's where the point of conversation and telling them that this is something which is temporary. This is not here to stay. But whilst it's here, we have to be cautious. We have to be cautious, and it's in our hand to take all the precautions. Despite precautions, if something goes wrong, for instance, when my son got COVID, he would wear the mask even at night. And he would tell me that, I'm so scared, I'm going to wear it to sleep so that I don't get it in my sleep. And I had to tell him that, no, it's okay, Baba. It's okay that you've got it, but we'll recover and we have to be strong enough to come back and fight with this. So that's where it's even more challenging for even younger kids in the age group of 2 to 3. There are so many babies who've been born in the pandemic who think that this is the normal life. So for them, it will be a transcendental shift when things come back to normalcy. But whenever things do, don't look at kids as just a showpiece there who shouldn't be told things. The conversation aspect and telling them is so important. Read to them, Tell them. Sometimes they will not understand if you are saying it. But if their best friend is saying it, things, change. So talk to them, let them intermingle, whenever things with due precautions in mind. Let them go out, play with a friend, let them be kids. So that's when, things will recover. And hopefully, I hope really, really soon, because we've all suffered so much in the last 2 years that this is now too much. And we're worried in India because they're saying that the third wave might be impacting kids the most. So let's just hope that, the nasal vaccine that is supposed to comes out soon. And we all, come on the other side of it. And until then, just be strong, be positive, read happy things, watch happy shows. Just don't, watch scary things, just let them be kids sometimes. If they want to, creep into bed in the night, there's no point shooing them away. Sometimes, they're only kids for 10, 11 years. Once they become teenagers, they wouldn't want to be around you. But whilst they want to come and cuddle you, let them into the bed. So that's what, even though we sleep separately, but sometimes in the night, he say, Mama, I want to come and sleep with you. Come on, hop into bed, because it's nice for us. And I've realized something, that we need kids more than they need us. We think the other way. We think that, we are doing them a favor. We are doing so much for them. But in fact, you wouldn't realize that subconsciously, children are the ones who are adding personality to your life, who are adding value to your life. So just cherish that.
Thank you so much. If I cannot take away any other thing, I should be able to take away the fact that, communication is very, very important as regards to children and COVID-19. Communication. The speaker, one of the speakers in the previous session, the morning session, also emphasized on the need to communicate as regards to just, flogging the children or, trying to be all hard on them when it comes to discipline. Thank you so much. We do not have any other questions, so I'm going to introduce our second speaker for today. And in case you're just joining us, you are on to the third International Parenting Seminar organized by Antoscience Consultancy. And this year's seminar is in partnership with Lindaspace Media. And feel free to, of course, you are joining us. If you're seeing this video, I'm sure you've seen it from either Facebook group, Parent Teachers Network, or a Lindaspace Media on YouTube. So without further ado, let me introduce our second speaker. Let's get to know who she is before she eventually grabs the microphone.
Radio to educators and how we all as aunt, uncle, brother, sister, sibling, niece, nephew, and as human beings in general can join hands together to protect Earth's children in the holistic topic, children protection, all hands on deck, is a child school safety advocate, Ifechukwu Enwani. Ifechukwu is the founder of Kingsdom, an organization that teaches children safety and trains parents and childcare providers on how to ensure their wards are free from avoidable harm and injury. She is the brain behind the School Safety Expert, a safety brand committed to helping school owners create safe school systems. She's also the convener of the For the Love of Children, a free child safety awareness summit for parents and childcare providers, where participants are trained on prevalent-related child safety issues and are equipped with pediatric first aid skills. She's also the co-founder of Club Safety Matters, a monthly virtual safety club for kids. She's an author of 2 books, Safety Education for Kids, a safety book that teaches children about safety, and Is This School Safe at All?, a guide for parents and school directors to assess the safety standards of schools in Africa. And she also co-authored the annotated manual of school operations in COVID era. She is an environmental engineer and works as an environmental management consultant. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Ifechukwu Enwani.
Thank you so much, Linda, for that introduction. Thank you. I would like to start with thanking Ijoma for inviting me. It's really beautiful to know what you're doing. My heart always goes out to whomever is doing something in the parenting space, because children, if we don't take care of them, then the future of the world is in shambles, right? And happy birthday to you, Ijoma. Happy birthday once more. Thank you so much, Neha, for your presentation. I also joined the morning session and the speakers were wonderful. And with what you've said this evening, I love the emphasis on children and not dummies. There is need, they're not dummies, there is need for communication. In our climb, I think that's where we get to feel it. We're used to dishing out rules and all. So today I'll be speaking on child protection, all hands on deck. Because personally, I begin to realize that most times when there's a problem in school, for instance, the first thing the parents get to do is, who is to blame? Is it the teacher? Is it the school? You know, you see posts online where they say, la 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 happened to my child. Shouldn't the school be? And at this point, you get to understand the focus at that point should be, what can we do to move ahead, right? For the safety of that child, or to solve the problem and not throwing blames. So today I'll be speaking on child protection on hands on deck. And because I understand that the CPN is mainly for parents and teachers, I'll be focusing on teachers and parents, so the school and the home front. So I'll be sharing my screen. Okay, can you see my screen, please?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. So child protection, all hands on deck. If you have any questions, you can drop it, and at the end of the day, I would take those questions, right? So what is child protection? I'll start with asking what, or telling us what child protection is in a very few words. It simply means safeguarding of children from violence, exploitation, abuse, and neglect. The first speaker in the morning did a wonderful job on the types of abuse and how neglect is a kind of abuse that we've been overlooking, especially in our climate. Child protection also takes cognizance of measures we take to protect the total well-being of the child. So when you're saying the total well-being, you're talking of the physical security, emotional and psychological security. And I would like to state this: when you're talking about protection and children, it is important that children feel protected, and it's important that the protective measures we've put in place is actually visible. So it's one thing that someone steps in and says, oh, this is actually a safe school for a child, or oh, this is actually a safe environment or a safe home space for a child. But the children in that space actually don't feel protected. So it's important that we go further after creating safe environments to ensure that these children actually feel protected, in telling them what you've put in place and teaching them how to also stay safe themselves. So who is responsible for child protection? I would like us to take a few seconds and actually ask ourselves whom we think is responsible for child protection. Is it just the family, or is it just the school, or is it just the government, right? So who is responsible for child protection? And I would like to say it is everybody, all hands on deck. The family has a role to play. The community and institutions where a child find themselves part-time has a role to play. The school, the church, the extracurricular clubs, the societies where they get to join. And then the governments also have a role to play. And each of these facets would have to do their best for children to be protected in total. However, it is important that parents or the family is seen as the primary caretaker of these children. Home is home. Family is the first point of contact. Whenever they leave or whatever it is they do during the day or after a period of time, they come back home. So parents should know that they are the primary caretakers for their children. So what that means is you do your bit, you ensure that you're creating a safe home space for your children. And when you're putting them in different institutions like schools or churches, you're also responsible to ask for the measures that have been put in place to ensure that those institutions can cater for the safety of your children while they're in their care. And then the government has a role to play. What acts are in place? What bills are in place? What regulations are in place? Can you enforce these rules? Are they being implemented? Unfortunately, in our climate, people can get away with anything. A child, before an accident befalls a child, or there's an emergency, and nobody is called to book. Nobody is held responsible or accountable because there are no penalties being enforced. There are no consequences. The government is kind of, relaxed when it comes to enforcing these things. And as I mentioned before, however, I'll be sticking to just parents and teachers for this presentation. So what makes a safety conscious caretaker? What would make you a safety conscious parent? What would make you a child safety conscious teacher? You have to be able to carry out these four things. You're able to create safe environments, you have good communication with the children. You've heard from speakers how important communication is. Neha said this in the morning, the two speakers said this, and then you have to be able to educate the children and you have to be able to carry out active supervision. So what is creating safe environment? I will start with the home front. I got into child advocacy first from the home front before I then started specializing in schools. So how do you create safe environments at home? The first is to find out the common injuries that happen in the home. And as listed here, you have the falls, trips, and slips. You have fires and burns. You have choking and suffocation, poisoning, drowning, electrocution. And then what can you do to neutralize these hazards? The next step to that is beginning to identify the sources of this risk or what can cause them, and those are called hazards. So for instance, for falls, trips, and slips, what could cause this in your home? You could go around and say, oh, there's a wet floor there. Junior could sleep on it. Oh, there's hot fluid there. It could spill on Ada. And you get to pick this risk, then have a conscious risk assessment and identify those hazards or those sources in your home environment that can lead to these injuries, and then you neutralize them. In neutralizing them, it is important that we begin to pay attention to what we call the risk control hierarchy. What that means is that there's priority given to elimination. How do you take away to zero level any of the causes of these injuries, right? But in a situation where you cannot eliminate these hazards, then you talk of substitution. Is there something else you can put in place that will reduce the risk of that injury happening? Or you talk of engineering controls. For instance, if you have a swimming pool, engineering control speaks to the environmental controls or the controls you can put in place to make the environment safe. So in a swimming pool, you're talking of perhaps guardrails, so your child cannot get to access the swimming pool, or a staircase, you're talking of guardrails, So your toddler cannot get to access, climb up or climb down the staircase without your knowledge. Administrative control could then speak to teaching your nanny, teaching your children, teaching your driver, teaching anyone involved in taking care of the child, how to take care of them, educating them on safety measures, and then putting processes in place. For instance, when I'm boiling hot water, the kitchen has to be shut. The children, they don't have to go close to it. If I'm transferring hot water from one room to another, I have to douse it with a bit of cold water. And then we have the PPE as a list. If your child is going swimming or they're riding a bicycle, for instance, what can you do? Can they put on their helmets or put on knee pads so in case they fall during the ride, they are actually protected? I would also like to state that these measures are actually applied to daycares and crèches, our early years setting. Because when you talk of keeping children safe in early years settings, then you're talking of child proofing the environment so they don't get to harm themselves. And if you follow these measures, then the children would be kept as safe as can be. So when you talk of safe environment, the next is effective education. I so much love Neha's emphasis on children not being dummies, because that's a mistake we make. Can they understand what we are saying? Will they understand? And because you're not paying attention to that, at times we don't even put effort to explaining to them. So we are used to dishing out rules. Junior, don't go there. Princess, don't do this. And you don't tell them why. Children have emotions like us, right? And I believe as adults, you would tend to respect a certain rule given when you know why. They're also curious beings, right? So when you want to educate a child, you have to be specific, first of all, on what safety topic it is you want to talk to them about. And then you have to explain to them the why behind it. I'm doing this because I want you to be safe. I'm doing this because, and you buy their attention and you get them to listen to you and agree with you. And then what is the how? How do you want these safety discussions to go with the children? So Neha made an instance where she said during house chores, right? And then you begin to see that it's then easy for you to actually educate these children. So perhaps one day you're cleaning and you're telling your son, oh, if you don't clean this off immediately, then the next person could sleep. That is safety education. Or she went and bought a pink and blue book, right? So in education, you need to be intentional about how you want to break a safety topic to them. And depending on the age of the child, then you have to find an age appropriate way of discussing the safety issues. Because at times you have difficult topics like sex education or sexual abuse. You have difficult topics like bullying, and you would want to break it down to the levels that they would understand and not necessarily get scared, right? They ask what they know already about the topic. You'd be surprised. And in asking it also helps you gauge what these children know, because you don't know what they've been fed outside. So in asking, you're then finding out if they actually have the right information about a certain topic, or if you have to then unlearn, help them unlearn certain beliefs about a certain topic. After educating them, ask them what they think, ask if they have anything to add. They might end up teaching you, and then involve them in the process. If, for instance, you're teaching fire safety and you're talking about fire escape plan, develop this fire escape plan with the children. So this can be happening in the home front, and this can be happening in school. So this is the end. The Child Safety Week for 2021 will be ending tomorrow. And if some schools do anything, you can say, oh, this is Child Safety Week. So we can have 1 hour in the 5 days of the week to discuss a certain safety topic, and you make it fun for the children. That's a safety education. Now, in teaching children, we should know that they first learn what we do and not what we say. So if you say a certain thing is unsafe and you're doing otherwise, then you're not actually passing down the right education. So as Du Bois said, children learn more from what you add than what you teach. So ensure that you're practicing what you're expecting the children to do, and start early to educate as early as 2. You'll be surprised what these children can grasp with regards safety education. Then we have active supervision as the third pillar of being a child safety conscious caretaker. So it is not enough to sit with the child in a certain room. Are you attentive? Are you observant? Right? We hear stories where a mother might be carrying it. I've heard one story where a mother was carrying her child and breastfeeding the baby, and then the baby choked. But she was there. Some people say she was watching Z World. I guess that is an exaggeration. But it also shows you that you can be in a space with a child and you're not paying attention. You can be in a space with a child and perhaps you're lost and thinking of something else, and something wrong is going wrong with the child. I would also like to state at this point that with children, silence is not golden. It might it might come as a joke, but it is actually serious. So when you have a child in your space or under your care and they go quiet, then please check on them. It's either they're curious or checking out something that could actually pose harm or pose a danger to them. And when you're actively supervising children, then you can anticipate when an accident is about to happen and you will be able to stop it. And the last pillar for safety conscious caretaking is good communication. I don't think I will dwell on this because the speakers had done so much had dwelt so much on good communication. It is important. You have to start early as when a child is in your womb. Practice talking to these children before they even come forth into the world. What that does is it helps you become comfortable in your skin, communicating with the children. Train yourself to control outbursts. When they report something that is that it's it's surprising or angers you or something, control your outburst, because once you have an outburst, the next time they wouldn't come back to you. Have difficult conversations. Make it easy for them to communicate to you. It would be better that you're the first person a child comes to, even when they are in trouble, right? And avoid joking with keeping secrets. Your children should be able to tell you whatever and whenever they have to share with you, right? Now, if you're a parent or even an educator or a caregiver, and you seem to notice a lapse in communication between you and your child, and it is expedient that you treat a certain issue with them, it doesn't make you less of a parent or less of an efficient parent or caregiver if you find someone the children respect, right? It is better you get someone else, maybe a teacher in school that's if you're a parent, or there's this uncle or auntie they love so much. Get that auntie or uncle to then talk to them. What you're trying to achieve is that whatever information it is you're trying to pass to them is actually appreciated, right? So that's with components of being a safety conscious caretaker, both as a parent, as an educator, as an uncle, as an auntie, or even as a nanny. Now, let's move ahead to safe schools, right? What does it mean? What are the components of a safe school? If as a parent, you get into a school, what questions should you ask? Even as a lay person, what should you look out for? What questions should you ask management or administration with regards to the safety of the school where you will be enrolling your child? And the components are building and premises safety, safety management systems, emergency preparedness and response plan, psychosocial and emotional safety, school transportation safety, security and access control. And with the pandemic, which we are still in, infection control has become very important. It has become an important pillar of school safety. So briefly, what are the questions you're going to ask when you get to school, or for you to check the standard of school, the safety standard of a school? Does the school have a safety policy? A safety policy would state the school's commitment to health and safety. Now, for school leaders, if there are any in our midst, it is important that you pay attention and know that when it comes to safety policy, when you have it written, it is not enough for you to just pack it up one place. It has to be backed with processes and evidence safety culture. And when the process does not align with the policy, then you have to, review your policy and update it, right? The policy also should state responsibility and accountability. If so and so goes wrong, who is responsible, who should be held accountable. And the person that is responsible or should be held accountable should also be aware that they are responsible for so, and so, right? And then we have questions with regards to safe location. Where is this school located? Is it located in a high-risk area, or is it located close to a cement industry where you have fumes going left, right, and center? Or is it located to a silo or a landfill? Do you have a nearby hospital in case there is an emergency? Is the school premises or environment accessible to children with disability? You know, if you have children that have wheelchairs or have difficulties in walking, can they actually access all parts of the school? What is the playground like? What are staircases like? What are the classrooms like? Are they actually safe and free of hazards? Then you're asking necessary safety equipment and signages, such as first aid kits, fire extinguishers, muster points where people will gather if there is an emergency, zebra crossings in front of the school. You're also asking about the staff and if they've acquired adequate safety trainings, such as pediatric first aid and CPR for early years. Do they know what safety practices look like? Do they know how to administer medication and if they should or not? Do they know how to respond to emergencies and how to ensure that the children in their care get to a safer place in due time and with less casualty or no casualty at all? Every school, depending on the site, should have at least 2 teachers with standard safety skills. Then you also ask if there are psychological and emotional support services. So what is the anti-bullying policy in that school like? Are they strong on avoiding or ensuring or clamping down on bullying in their school? If something goes wrong or if bullying actually occurs, what is their take towards punishment and consequences? Do they have a guidance and counselor that can talk to these children? Even for instance, during the COVID, a lot of children came back, returned to school abused, right? There was an increase in sexual abuse. Some also returned emotionally abused. So as a school, do you have psychological and emotional support service, like a psychologist that could help these children, even your teachers, pass through difficult times, right? These counselors can also be on a daily basis or per need. So when you need them, then they could come and talk to the children. But it is important that every child at a point in time have access to psychological support services. Another question you'll be asking is, how prepared is the school for potential emergencies? So depending on the area where you are, what are the emergencies that are likely to occur? Do these schools have procedures and measures? So if a fire outbreak happens or riots or flooding, or even with the insurgency we have now, right, and school raids happening, what measures have these schools put in place? Are you aware as a teacher, are you aware as a parent of these measures? Are the teachers aware? Are the children aware? How do you contact parents in an emergency? What is the school's business continuity plan? So if there is an emergency, just like the COVID, for some schools, it was easy for them to, transcend from or transit from online, from physical and on-site learning to online learning. For some schools, they were never really able to catch up. So that's what business continuity plan speaks to. If there is a need to shut down the school or suspend learning or something happens, what systems would you put in place to ensure that learning continues? These are questions we should be asking school management. What about infection control measures? Do you have rules like 6 child stays home, medical records, and vaccinations compulsory before a child is enrolled? And then security and access control measures. This measure right now in Nigeria is dear to my heart because schools are being raided. And what I think about security and with what is happening now is, in as much as is in the north, it's sad that the government is actually not doing enough, right? My fear personally is that if the trend should then come down to the south, then high level schools would be targeted where parents would be seen or would seem to be able to pay these ransoms. So these schools that are high level should then begin to pay attention to security measures, right? How robust is your security system? Can intruders be spotted easily if they come in? What is your lockdown procedure like, right? These are important issues. I would get to talk about security before I end the session a little more detailed. Now, parents should know that when it comes to school, school is a business. And because school is a business, parents are clients. And you can then ride on the confidence or the rights you have to ask your school or to ask the school management what they have in place. It's not enough to ask, can this school speak phonetics enough? What is the branding like? Whom and whom attend this school? What is curriculum like? What about safety standards? All this I have shared in the past few minutes. Are you asking school management about this? Even as a teacher, as an educator, are you asking your school management, are you holding them accountable with regards safety standards? You can also teach your children to go in, for example, with what is happening with security. Hello, ma'am, what have you put in place? So everyone is expected to hold school management accountable, as well as, and in holding them accountable, we should also know that whatever it is we're asking of them should actually be practicable and also reasonable. So let's talk a bit about security, because it's happening a lot, sadly, especially in northern Nigeria, right? How can schools protect themselves and handle these raids? The first step to this is vulnerability assessment. You have to assess your school to check where there are weak spots, where you're vulnerable. Do you have an adequate fence? Is your security personnel equipped enough to do their job? Are there holes in the fence? This is what vulnerability assessment speaks to. You need to call in a professional that would help you point out your weak spots, and then you work towards strengthening your measures with whatever report you've gotten. Do you have a private security arrangement? Gone are the days where an old man sitting at the gate does the job. No, now you would want to employ the services of private security that can at least give a bit of, oh, sorry about that, that can at least give a bit of what's it called, a bit of defense or opposition if need be. What is your security and access control like? Do you have a fence guarding the school, or can anyone walk in at any time? When people walk in, can you tell for sure whom is walking in, whom they are looking for, right? The incident that happened in Abakaliki recently, they had they turned back the suicide bomber because he couldn't tell whom he came to look for. And the story says that he ran into the bush and then the bomb went off. Imagine if that school didn't have an adequate security and access control, then he would have gained access and maybe, and then perhaps become successful with his plan. Familiarize yourself with local community and authorities. Let the community know about your school and try to be a little bit friendly with them. This helps with intelligence gathering. If there is something going wrong, at least if the community knows, then somehow the school will get to know and prepare ahead of time, right? Invest in lockdown systems. With what is happening now, it is important that school systems or school management begin to really consider investing. I call it investment because I appreciate it's going to take a lot of resources. Do you have burglary proofs at every point? So at the gate, what is the gate like? Can it be shut down? At the reception, can a certain building be shut down? At classroom levels, can classes be shut down in case, or locked? Can the children be locked in case there is an intruder? What about bunkers, especially for boarding schools? In case these people get it, is there somewhere these children can go to delay them or even deter them, right? I believe in my heart that if these people come in and don't understand or don't see these children, they would leave, right? I don't think they would how do I put it? I think when their plans don't, or when the way they plan things don't go, or if what they plan doesn't go in line with what they have in their head, they are going to be destabilized. So let's start thinking of burglary proofs of bunkers and robust security systems. What about lockdown procedures? When these children know something is going wrong, what do they have to do? How do they locate these bunkers, if there are any? How do they know to get away from the point of the raid and get to safer locations within the school? How do the teachers know what to do? You have to develop lockdown procedures that are specific and fit the context of your school. Then please train, inform, and practice, carry out drills. Train your students, train your teachers, train your security, train your students, train your staff, all your employees, train your parents. Let each and every one of them know what role to play in case this happens. And then what is your continued learning strategy? If you know that is a hotspot in your area, or it's becoming a hot zone, can you shut down school and let everybody begin to learn from their different homes, right? Instead of putting the children at risk by letting them come to school. So when you're talking of continued learning strategies, you're then considering stuff like online learning, right? Online learning. This is a very important business continuity planning strategy for schools. That is that for security. I would also like to just spend a bit on top child safety concerns. So if you have a child, these are issues you should actually look out for. Sexual abuse. The first speaker did a wonderful job on understanding abuse. It would be nice to catch up with what she said. Then bullying, raids and kidnaps, online safety, fire safety, road safety, home safety. If you have a child, you should pay attention to this safety concern and begin to know how to educate them and what to put in place to protect them from these safety issues. Because of time, I wouldn't be dwelling on any of this. However, because bullying is becoming very, very, very it's growing and growing in our society, and children are now beginning to even commit suicide. It's important that we talk about bullying, both online and on-site and offline, right? So are you paying attention to signs of bullying? I always say both the bullies and the bullied are products of parents, right? The bullies are actually people's children. So are you paying attention to what traits your child has, and if there is an ability for them, or if there is a chance of them being bullies where they find themselves, and begin to take care and speak to those traits? What if your child is portraying signs of being bullied? Can you pick up those signs when they are coming? Teach your children social skills such as kindness and empathy. They cannot stand by and see someone else be bullied. Neither should they partake in bullying, right? Teach your children to handle teasing. Some of us, even if we're not bullied when we are children, we might be bullied in our workplace when we are adults. But you need to prepare your children and make them emotionally strong enough to be able to handle teasing and handle bullying. And communication plays a big role here. If they come back to you, are you ready to listen to them? And are you ready to follow up with consequences, with punishing whomever bullied them? Build your child's self-confidence. They should be able to stand up for themselves and get involved. And when it comes to bullying and sexual abuse, most times it boils down to the body image and self-esteem of a child. So when you hear children start sharing insecure feelings about their bodies, then it is likely that when people attack these feelings, then they would feel so hurt. And if a person or a predator out there also gets to make them feel good about themselves with regards to these insecure feelings, then there's a high probability that they will fall victims to sexual abuse. And when it comes to self-esteem, it can happen to both boys and girls. As Neha mentioned, we should stop the stereotype. Boys should be allowed to express their feelings. They should be allowed to feel weak. They should be allowed to feel hurt, and it would help them, it will help you manage them, and then they grow up to be stronger human beings. Spotlight their strengths and make sure you're investing in their strengths so they feel good about themselves even when they think about their weaknesses. And then teach them self-acceptance and self-validation, even if it means teaching them affirmations they say every morning. So a child with low self-esteem, as I said before, would easily fall prey to grooming and bullying, as they would constantly seek for validation. They are also an easy target for bullies because they are less likely to stand up for themselves. So in conclusion, I would like to state, so the theme for this seminar says child protection, a rewarding responsibility. it's actually rewarding, because if an accident happens, you can then lose property, you can lose time, you can lose your resources, there can be compromise of quality of life, you can lose your peace of mind, and worst of all, you can lose a life. As a school owner, it can mar your school reputation, and depending on how bad it is, it can lead to your school shutting down permanently. As a school owner, you're avoiding legal litigation and legal costs. I also want to believe that we'll come to a point where even parents that neglect their children will get to answer legally, to that. If children do not feel secure in school, then they cannot actually learn. Prevention is cheaper than dealing with an accident. And I would like to state here that for safety to happen, even as a safety professional, if I decide not to be intentional about it, then my safe or my immediate space would be unsafe. So ensuring safety takes mindfulness. It has to be unique to your context. A safety measure for a bungalow is not the same safety measures for a duplex, or a safety measure for a low-income school wouldn't necessarily be same safety measure or plan that would work in a high-income schools. So your safety measures has to be unique, and it should be practical. As an educator, as a parent, acquire safety skills. And in acquiring safety skills, educate all members of your household, your house helps, your gardeners, your drivers. Now, most times when we tell parents that, they're like, because to them it's like luxury. How do I have to pay so and so amount to give first aid to the driver, to give first aid to the nanny? That's like waste of money. Is it actually waste of money? I like to tell parents, when your child is with just the nanny and there is a choking incident, right? Who is there to save the child? Is it not the trained nanny that will save the child? At that point in time, how much was that investment? It's totally nothing compared to the life of that child. As an adult, and your driver is driving you, and then you have the first aid skills or the CPR skills, and you begin to have perhaps cardiac arrest. It's the driver that you must have trained that will save you. At that point in time, what is the investment to your life? And always stay informed. Always stay informed. What is happening? How can I protect my children? What is happening? What knowledge do I need? What skills do I need to protect my children? I'll be ending this session with stating this. Adequate child protection anticipates, I'm coming. Adequate child protection anticipates the needs of children, anticipates the threats to them, makes adequate preparation to meet those needs, and mitigates the threats well before they arise. So before I leave, I'll be asking you, have you anticipated the threats and needs of your children? Have you put in place mitigation? If you haven't, can you decide to do that after this conference today? And will you actually do that if you have the ability to? And with that, I'll be signing out. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with your audience, Mrs. IJ. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was really a lot. We had a lot to chew. Thank you so much, Ifechukwu. Do we have any question? Do we have any question? Someone have a message in the chat and says, okay, want to have a copy of your slides for participants. Okay, but do we have any question? So you talked about, please, if you have any question, if you're watching from Facebook group or Facebook account or YouTube, please do well to drop in your question in the chat. I will try as much as I can to read them all. So far, I haven't seen anything yet. So I have a question, I'm kind of curious though. You talk about having free training CPR. Is there no way organization like your organization can have this training done virtually and invite people to join virtually, where you have this various training as, first aid skills and training, just like what you do though? You are muted, please.
So with first aid and CPR, right? Virtual training is good, yes. No knowledge is a waste. But we advocate for physical training. Why? So with first aid and CPR, you know, if you've ever had to experience physically, it helps with simulation. You need to know for what depth the chest can go. Most times with the children, when you're holding the dummies, right, or the mannequins, the emotions that flash through you is like, oh, this is what will happen in real life. So there is need for physical when it comes to first aid and CPRs. So do we trainings? Yes. Is I would like, so personally, I don't handle trainings. I would recommend handle it. So I have asked, she's based here in Abuja for pediatric training. It's very good. First, then based, we have a Chile that service 9. So you get virtual knowledge. It is important that you have physical training help with mom relation. So say for virtual first trainings.
Okay, thank you for that. Do we still have any questions? If you don't have any questions, okay.
Okay, Ifechuku, thank you so much. Of a truth, we have a lot in common, and I have not told you. Before I delved into the classroom activities again, I worked for some years as a contract staff with SPDC and PDC. I was a HSC officer. So hearing you speak is just like meeting a sister again. And I can remember drafting our job hazard analysis for each of the jobs that we did. I worked with an environmental firm. We conducted our analysis in situ and all that. So I'm glad to see that you are already in the system and trying to apply it again. It's so cool. Over here in Owerri, I've also tried to make one or two impacts here, but it's good. It's good seeing you. I think soon we are going to collaborate and bring down something here in the East, in the education sector. Safety is really for all. It shouldn't be restricted just to the oil and gas sector. To no, just like it's all over me. Whenever I get to any environment, I look out for all those mustering points and all that. The last time we organized coding camp for case, the first thing I asked the environment, the where we use the hub, I asked them, do you have a mustering point? Can I see your fire extinguisher? These that they were looking at me like, blah, what's she talking about? Well, these are things that we have to put in place. Accident, nobody plans for it, nobody expects it, no one prays for it. But for a school system, we're talking about child protection, is not out of place. It should really be given enough attention. So thank you. Well done. Hello, Linda.
Okay, so yeah, I can hear you. So thank you all for joining us today.
Linda.
We had an amazing time.
Linda, you're forgetting something.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me,
okay,
Linda?
What was that?
I have a section.
Yes, I can hear you.
I have a section.
Oh, okay. You have a section, do you? Okay.
Yes. I think it's time for my section, right?
Yeah, it's time for your section, please.
Actually, it's going to be a brief one. Okay, I went through the topics that we had, and I felt the need that teachers should actually put in their voice into the show. It's a pity we don't have much of them here on Zoom, but I know that many are watching us via the live stream section in our Facebook group and the YouTube. All right. So I wanted us to look at it from the teacher's perspective. So So permit me to share my slide. It wouldn't take much of our time, but it's something that we'll just do briefly. Okay. Okay, so I have my first slide where I talked about what we do at Antoscience. I said our services, we have our training, school rebranding, consultation, we offer support, digital solutions, even partnerships. And we, of course, we anchor events like this, okay, and lots more, all right? Now, the topic we have is child protection, teacher's perspective, right? I'm actually looking at a situation whereby teachers can actually come in, let's share our ideas, what we see in the classroom. I'm not really a fan of, hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear
We
you.
can hear you.
Okay, I'm not really a fan of doing much of theory. I love it when we have it practical. Like people bring out their practical experiences and we talk about it. Okay, we've talked about child protection. I'm not going to talk about it again. We already know the concept of child protection. Of course, who a teacher is, we talk about that person who impacts knowledge. All right, no matter how we frame it, it all boils down to a teacher imparts knowledge. A teacher teaches a learner, whether in a formal perception or informal environments, within or outside the school, you are a teacher if you are actually impacting knowledge. Now, what happens is this. Oftentimes, is as if teachers, we are just interested in the academic aspect alone. I can remember walking up to some colleagues when I see events like this, I try to like educate them, sensitize, this is what it should be. They will always be like, oh, please leave me, I don't have time for that. But it's happening. Also, it hurts my feelings whenever I see you as a teacher. You feel that your duty just ends with what you do, get up, you teach, and that's that. And even when you notice that there are odd behaviors, I was glad when the first speaker was talking about it. Teachers will notice odd behaviors and they will keep calm about it. Oftentimes, the school owners, they are not helping matters. Yes, oftentimes it could be, of course, I like interacting with people. Even when they give me such attitudes, I try to interact with them to find out, get to the roots of the problem. Now you find out that our school owners are not trying. A teacher will come up with an issue like this, and you just shut the teacher down. It's not fair, it's not cool, it is not safe. It is the child that will be affected at the end of the day. And so, to school owners, whenever such issues comes to your desk, what do? You attend to it with every form of seriousness. And that will go a long way to, inspire and motivate the teacher to go back and do more. Now, you as a teacher, even when you don't get that cooperation, you don't stop. I'm a witness. That is what took me back to the classroom. I've been saying it over the media, do this, do that. I go for training. I tell teachers, this is how you do the job. And I found out that there is need for me to do it. Be in the system. So when I come out to talk to you, you actually know that this is somebody that is in the system. And you know that I'm actually talking from experience. Do you get it? So as a teacher, you have to be observant. You look out for those threats. You look out for those threats. That is what makes you who you are. Okay? So then what are the threats that a child could be facing in a school? If a child have done a good job, if a child have told us the hazards, the danger spots, those things that are affecting safety in the school, there are so many of them. Now, take for instance, in a classroom, looking at physical threats, the floor could be wet. Now, ordinarily, you send for the school cleaner, right? Now, what if the school cleaner is not close by? I include this in my security education, whether it's in the scheme or not. It, as a teacher, just as parents are being encouraged to instill this consciousness in the learner, you too as a teacher should train your learners, instill it in them, so that at every point in time, they are looking out for likely threats, likely danger spots, and they will know that when this happens, this is what we are meant to do. Do you get it? We look at emotional stress. I talked about the kind of movies that our learners watch back at home. Then, of course, when there is a synergy existing between the parents and the teachers, you as a teacher will notice this. Of a truth, parents could be making this mistake without knowing that it's a mistake. That is when you as a teacher will now come in to help. Oftentimes, their ignorance of the fact that the kind of movies their kids watch at home affects their academic performance. Now, aside academic performance, there are other ways. There are other forms of intelligence. What happens to them? Do we say no to them? I gave an instance of a mother giving her girl child of how what's her age, still in the secondary, her teenager. She's giving her pills for family planning. As a teacher, when you discover this, what do you do? The first speaker told us ways we can observe that something is actually going wrong. She said, when you're talking about sex and a particular child is keeping calm, in as much as you're discussing it with her peers and she's keeping calm, what do you do? All right. So these are ways we can actually identify abuse. You could see a girl child. I complained that I have a girl child in my class at a certain time. She's always lost, absent-minded. What do you do? It now voices out that you as a teacher, you need to be what? Observant. If you're not observant, you will not notice these things. We are talking about, on the general notes, child protection. In terms of academics, you don't work with those ones that you know that they are already intelligent, they're giving you the high scores, the high grades. No. What happens to the rest? Are you protecting such a child? So in terms of academics, intellectual capacity, you are also to be observant enough to notice when a child needs your help. If that child begins to feel insecure, inferiority complex comes to play, you're losing that child. The self-esteem have gone, self-efficacy have gone. That child have lost that confidence. Child protection. Disciplinary measures. How do you discipline your child? You smack? Mommy Fevo told us that all those things that we do in the past, oftentimes parents, we said, even teachers, we often tell ourselves that during our own time when we are going to school, this was done to us, this was done to us, and it made us come out stronger. Hello, that is then. Now, there is need for us to modify how we discipline. I call it discipline, not punishment. Please, you are disciplined. You discipline with love. We have in the picture here, sorry, we have in the picture here where you have being smacked by the mother. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to get the option where I stop to share. Okay, I'm back, right? Hello, are we there?
Yes, you
Yes,
are
we can
back.
see you now.
Okay, I am trying to rush through it. I told you it would be a brief session. Just to chip in one or two things I've seen in the classroom that there is need for us to mention it. All right? Teachers, we should mind how we discipline this case. Still on child protection, right? How you talk to them. Know your attitude before the case. If you're fighting before a child, what do you expect? If you're quarreling with your colleagues as a teacher before a child, what do you expect? And then that is insecurity coming into play, right? You're not protecting that child. The mental stability of that child is at risk. We know that. Okay, generally, I believe that just like Ifechuku said, all hands have to be on deck. The school owners, the parents, and of course the teachers. and every other caregiver that comes in contact with a child. We all have to watch out for the child, and that is how we protect our child. So at this point, I want to thank everyone watching us. I want to thank our moderator, amazing moderator. I want to thank Ifechuku for staying back to round up with us. It has really been a pleasure. Then before I forget, I saw a material. I thought you were going to introduce that to us. I saw a book. Please do introduce to us. We need a copy. At Parents Teachers Network over here in the East, we need such materials. We talk about it. Our viewers, they are listening. I'm sure they will also want a copy. Well done for the job that you do. We look forward for further collaboration with you, with Lindaspace Media. Thank you for all you do. We at Antoscience, we are grateful to you all for making our dreams come true. Is a wrap for 2021 parenting seminar. So Linda, over to you. Thank you. Linda, are you on mute? Hello, Linda.
Yes, hello.
Okay, we can hear
Yeah,
you
you were
now.
talking about making the copy, right? Yeah.
Myself or Ifechuku?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you were telling her to make the copies available.
Well, that's
Okay, for
fine.
the
I'll find a way to get it across to Mrs. Ijoma. So this is a copy of the book. Is this school safe at all? So it's a simple guide for parents and school owners. So it was done in a very simple method where it lists out questions. So even a layman that is not necessarily a safety professional can then look out for certain measures and ask questions on what should actually be in place in schools. So I'll find a way to get some copies to Mrs. Ijoma, and if anyone also wants an e-copy, it is available. So that's fine.
okay, and in addition, I also
How much does it
requested
go
for the slide. Yes, it's good to tell us
for?
the cost. Yes.
Okay, both the e-copy and hard copies for 1,000 naira a copy.
All right, that's
1,000
good.
naira a copy, yes. And I'll make my slides available. That's fine. I'll send it across.
All right, so I'll be getting across to you for the books, both the e-copy and the hard copies. We really appreciate you. Thank you, ma'am.
And thank you for having me. Thank you so much, Linda. You've done a wonderful job with moderating this summit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to when you will call me to come and moderate one of your summits. Okay, thank you so much for joining us wherever you're joining from, either from Facebook, YouTube, or even hopping here on Zoom call with us. Do not forget that this is an annual seminar. So we are like really expecting next year's. I do not know for now if it's going to be virtual or physical. You have Antoscience to answer that question. Please follow Parents Teachers Network on Facebook. It's a Facebook group. Like and follow the page to get more updates on how to actually, navigate your work as a parent or a teacher. Okay. And of course, you know that this seminar is organized by Antoscience, and at the beginning, they talked about what they do, and of course, they're into branding, branding, teaching, and all whatnot that has to do with education and children, right? Am I correct?
Yes, you are. We are into school
Okay,
rebranding.
Okay, school
Yes, school
rebranding.
rebranding,
All
our
right, thank you
training
so much.
services, consultations, collaboration, digital solutions we offer. We do supplies and support. So lots of them and events like this too. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I'm super glad that you decided to partner with Lindaspace Media for this year. And of course, we are a brand that focuses on video production and content curation, social media management for both private and corporate individuals. And we can help your seminar or event like this, even if you're holding it live. Physically, we can help you put it on the virtual space to reach more people and more participants. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you so much. See you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.